They laughed at your silence, but they didn't realize they were standing next to a volcano before eruption. Now imagine this for a moment. Chosen one, a volcano sitting still, completely silent, surrounded by people mocking its calm. They call it dead, lifeless, harmless. Then, one night, without warning, it erupts with a force that reshapes the entire land. That's you. You were quiet, not because you had nothing to say, but because you were calculating, aligning, charging. And now that you've finally moved, every person who underestimated you is choking on their own shock. Here's a fact for you. Psychologists say the human brain naturally underestimates people who stay quiet or withdrawn because it mistakes silence for submission. But what it doesn't see is what's building in that silence: the discipline, the awareness, the self-mastery. You didn't disappear, you evolved behind closed doors, and that's what made their jaws drop. You didn't change overnight, you unlocked. And thank you, chosen one. Thank you for showing up, for refusing to shrink, for listening to the voice within that kept whispering, "It's not over yet." Don't forget to pay this message back by pressing like and subscribe to help spread this message to more souls, because this light, this truth, it's not meant to stay hidden. You're part of a force now, and your support keeps that fire alive. Now let's get back to what really matters. They never expected this side of you, the calm, the confidence, the silence that's not submission but strategy. They called you shy, but you were just studying. They thought you were done, but you were just reloading. You didn't need validation. You were building vibration. That's what makes you dangerous now. The same people who whispered that you'd never make it are whispering your name with shock in their voices. You've become the living contradiction to their every assumption. See, chosen one, people forget that silence is where true transformation happens. A seed doesn't scream when it breaks open underground. A diamond doesn't shout while being formed under pressure. Yet when it finally surfaces, the world stops. That's you. You didn't need to announce your glow-up because the results screamed louder than words ever could. You let the universe speak for you. You let time expose what ego tried to hide. And that's what's killing them right now. The fact that you didn't even need to fight back. You let your growth do the talking. You let your new energy walk into rooms before you did. The very ones who once dismissed you are now replaying old conversations in their heads, realizing they were talking to a genius disguised as a ghost. But here's where it gets deeper. Your silence wasn't weakness, it was wisdom. The most dangerous people in any room are never the loud ones. They're the observant ones. While others chase attention, you study intention. While they react, you reflect. That's why your comeback feels like witchcraft to them. You used your stillness as a weapon, and now you're untouchable. And let's talk about that shift. It's not just your confidence that changed, it's your entire frequency. Your presence hits different now. You walk into a room and it's like gravity adjusts around you. People can't explain it, but they feel it. That's not mystery, that's mastery. You're not the same person they left. You're the upgraded version of every silent battle you fought alone. Do you realize how powerful that is, chosen one? You've done what most people fear. You reinvented yourself without warning anyone. You didn't ask for approval. You just became undeniable. That's why their jaws are dropping. They're witnessing the person they overlooked become the standard they now chase. It's funny, isn't it? The same people who once pitied you are now plotting how to get your attention. They used to think you were fragile. Now they're afraid to touch you. They used to laugh at your stillness. Now they're studying your strategy. The irony? You didn't do it for revenge. You did it because you refused to live small. You did it because being underestimated was your greatest motivator. You became living proof that isolation doesn't mean failure. It's incubation. That's where chosen ones are built. Away from noise, away from eyes, away from fake applause. You were hidden because you were in construction mode. And now that the building is complete, they're realizing it's a fortress. This is what happens when you stop explaining and start evolving. You don't need to prove them wrong when your existence already does. Every new level of you is another slap to their old version of you. That's why they're stunned. They can't keep up with your upgrades. You're rewriting the definition of resilience in real time. So don't shrink now. Let them talk. Let them stare. Because every shocked face is just another confirmation that your silence was strategy. You are the storm they didn't predict, the legend they tried to overlook, and the proof that calm doesn't mean harmless. It means ready. And if they're still whispering, let them. Because what they're really saying is, we never saw that coming. And chosen one, if you're still here, then you felt it. That wasn't just a message, that was a mirror, a reflection of the version of you they never expected, but can no longer ignore. That was just the warning shot. Now it's time to peel back the layers, step by step. So if you're ready to shatter every false label, every underestimated version of you, drop a 77 in the comments like a seal of initiation. And if this message lit a fire in your chest, fuel the movement with a super thanks. You are not just listening, you're part of this force that's shaking the old world awake. Let's keep this current flowing. Thank you for standing with us, Chosen One. It means everything. And now, let's dive into it, step by step. If you're really the one this message was meant for, you'll feel the magnetic pull to stay until the very end, because this is your reflection in motion. Let's get started. Number 1. You were hidden, not harmless. They mistook your silence for surrender, but that was just the sound of your power sharpening its blade. That's the part they can't swallow now. The same ones who mocked your stillness are now scrambling to understand it. You were hidden, yes, but not harmless. You weren't lost, you were loaded. And the day you decided to unmute your presence, it hit like a detonation. You didn't show up with noise, you showed up with impact. That's what's got them in shock. The ones who thought they had you figured out are now seeing a version of you that makes them question everything they assumed about quiet ones. See, the world teaches people to chase the loudest voice in the room. But chosen ones, we're the blueprint of the opposite. We move in silence, we master in shadows, and we explode when the time is right. There's a reason some of the most powerful people in history were underestimated at first. Think of Bruce Lee, soft-spoken, lean, humble, until the moment he struck, and the world never forgot his name. Think of Rosa Parks, a quiet woman on a bus. Her silence didn't mean fear, it meant line crossed. Her quiet refusal echoed through history louder than any shout ever could. Chosen energy is like that. It doesn't announce, it arrives. And when it does, it leaves permanent imprints on the world and permanent fear in the hearts of those who doubted it. Now, let's talk facts. Psychologically, people associate stillness with weakness because we live in a world addicted to performance. If you're not constantly showing, posting, proving, you're labeled irrelevant. But chosen ones don't chase noise, we chase truth. We don't flex, we become. That's what makes us terrifying to the shallow souls who need validation to feel alive. You didn't disappear, you just stopped entertaining the circus. And now that you've returned with a sharper mind, healed soul, and unshakable energy, oh, now they want to understand your silence. But they can't, because that silence wasn't empty. It was sacred. It was your transformation chamber, your dojo, your bunker. You were in the lab with your soul, upgrading quietly. That's the piece they'll never admit out loud. You didn't need their spotlight. You became your own sun. You didn't post your progress because you didn't need applause. You needed alignment. While they were getting high off attention, you were getting high off clarity. And here's the thing they'll never say to your face. They know they were wrong about you. They feel it in their gut every time they see you now. That awkward pause when your name comes up. That's not confusion. It's regret. They had front row seats to your silence, and they used it to mock you. But now, every word you speak echoes with authority. Every move you make carries weight. You walked in soft, and now the ground trembles under your steps. Chosen one, maybe you're wondering right now, why did they overlook me? Why did they act like I was invisible? You were never invisible. You were just invisible to the blind, and that's not your fault. The truth is, many people don't see, they just scan. They don't feel energy, they judge performance. And when you didn't perform for them, they labeled you unimportant. But now that your energy can't be ignored, they're scrambling for explanations. Let them scramble, let them overthink, let them spiral in their confusion. Because here's the twist, they helped build the version of you that now haunts them. Every time they dismissed you, you learned. Every time they ignored you, you grew. You were taking notes while they were throwing shade. You were leveling up while they were laughing down. And now they're stuck watching your highlight reel, wishing they paid attention when you were quiet. Think about it like this. A lion doesn't roar when it's stalking. It moves slow. It moves silent. Then it strikes. And by the time the prey realizes what happened, it's already over. That's what your silence was. A stalking. You were hunting alignment. You were hunting wisdom. You were hunting your highest self. And now that you've found it, you're no longer walking, you're prowling. Strategic, sovereign, silent, but lethal. And let's get one thing straight. Just because you kept your light to yourself doesn't mean you didn't have fire. In fact, that fire is what kept you going in the dark. You burned from within. And now you're radiating, not just glowing, radiating. That kind of transformation doesn't come from noise. It comes from solitude, from spiritual war, from emotional bloodshed. They will never understand what it took to become the person who now stuns them into silence. You didn't just glow up, you grew up emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and that shift is terrifying to those who built their identity off the version of you that stayed quiet, obedient, and easy to dismiss. Now that you've reclaimed your voice, your truth, your power, they don't know where to place you anymore. You no longer fit into the box they had for you. You shattered it, and now they can't look at you without remembering how wrong they were. And don't be surprised if they try to come back, suddenly respectful, suddenly curious, suddenly supportive. It's not love, it's shock. It's fear disguised as admiration, because deep down, they know you carry something rare. You weren't designed to be popular. You were designed to be powerful. You weren't built for the crowd. You were built for impact. And when the chosen rise, the crowd always gasps, always too late, always too loud. So let them gasp, let them choke on the surprise, let them stutter when they speak about you. Because what they're really reacting to isn't your words, it's your becoming. You are proof that stillness is not emptiness. It is preparation. And chosen ones, we don't speak until the universe commands it. We don't move until the shift is divine. And when we finally reveal ourselves, it's undeniable. You were hidden, yes, but never harmless. You were underestimated, yes, but never undeserving. You were quiet, yes, but never weak. And now they know. Number 2. They only saw the child, not the commander. They thought you were soft because you were pure, but they forgot even angels lead armies. That's the irony of this whole thing, isn't it? The same ones who looked you in the eye and saw nothing but softness are now staring in disbelief as you rise with authority they never thought you'd wield. They saw the child, the innocent smile, the kind eyes, the quiet nature, and assumed that meant you were clueless, fragile, someone they could dismiss, talk over, control. But what they never saw coming was the commander hidden underneath. And now, they're realizing too late, that child they overlooked was a general in disguise. People love to underestimate gentle souls. This world is addicted to hard edges, sharp tongues, and flashy aggression. If you're calm, you must be weak. If you're forgiving, you must be naive. If you see beauty in everything, they label you a dreamer. But that's because their definition of strength is loud, while yours is real. And that difference, it's what makes you terrifying now. See, chosen one, there's a spiritual deception that plays out in the minds of the shallow. They believe that light equals fragility. But what they don't understand is that your light wasn't weakness, it was restraint. You had power, you had fire. You just didn't feel the need to prove it. Because real power isn't desperate. It doesn't scream, it doesn't flail, it doesn't beg for validation. It sits still until it's time. And now it's time. Your energy used to confuse them. They didn't know how to label you. You were kind, but strong. You were playful, but wise. You could laugh like a child and lead like a king. So they ignored the parts that didn't fit their expectations. They boxed you in, laughed at your softness, made jokes about your dreams, tried to educate you on how the world really works, as if your purity made you disconnected. But now that same energy is commanding the room, and they don't know how to respond. Let's take this deeper. There's a famous quote, "Do not mistake my kindness for weakness. I am kind to everyone, but when someone is unkind to me, weak is not what you're going to remember about me. That's you, chosen one. You walk with empathy, but you're built from resilience. You've got scars under that smile. You've got armor beneath that skin. You've been through hell and came back with heaven in your hands. And it shakes people when they finally realize the light they dismissed is the very fire that could incinerate everything false in their lives. Let's use an example. Think about Malala Yousafzai, a young girl advocating for education, shot by extremists for daring to speak. They saw a child, but what stood behind that child was a force of unshakable resolve. They tried to kill her voice and instead amplified it to the world. Or look at Martin Luther King Jr. His voice was soft, his message peaceful. But the power in that message tore down centuries of division. That's what chosen energy does. It looks gentle until it moves. Then it's unstoppable. And maybe right now you're asking yourself, why did they always treat me like I was too soft for this world? Here's the brutal truth. Most people fear what they don't understand. And because they couldn't understand how someone could be both compassionate and commanding, they chose to only see the part that made them feel superior. Your childlike nature, your wide-eyed wonder, your endless hope, it made them feel big in comparison. But it was an illusion, because deep inside you were always bigger than the room. They only saw the child because that's all they were capable of seeing. Their vision was limited, their perception was shallow. But now the commander in you is undeniable. Now your presence holds weight. You speak, and people stop scrolling. You walk in, and people check their energy. That's not an accident. That's alignment. That's the divine version of you stepping forward and saying, "Enough hiding." And let's be real, some of them are mad about it. Oh, they won't say it, but you can feel it. The side eyes, the awkward pauses, the fake support. Because deep down, they're furious that the person they once looked down on is now looking them eye to eye, unshaken. Some people need to believe you'll stay small forever so they don't have to confront how much they've settled. But now that your evolution is unavoidable, they're forced to see you for what you always were, a leader wrapped in light. They're witnessing a shift that can't be explained through logic. You didn't just get confident. You remembered who you are. You didn't just glow up. You took every ounce of disrespect and turned it into power. You didn't just get louder. You got clearer. And now they're trying to process how the same person they once saw as cute is now walking with king energy, speaking like a prophet, and making moves like a CEO. It's not a phase. It's not a costume. This is the real you. And it was always there. The difference now, you stopped downplaying it to make others feel comfortable. That's the scariest part for them. You're no longer hiding behind false humility. You're no longer pretending you don't see what you see, know what you know, or feel what you feel. You've embraced the commander within, the strategist, the leader, the visionary. And now that your softness walks hand in hand with authority, you've become something they can't categorize. You're not just powerful, you're complex. And complexity terrifies simple minds. You used to dim yourself to keep the peace. Now your light is a warning flare, a signal to the world. The chosen one has arrived, and they're not here to play small anymore. So let them stare, let them talk, let them wrestle with the version of you that doesn't shrink anymore. You don't owe them softness. You don't owe them silence. You owe yourself the truth. And the truth is, the child they underestimated was never weak. They were just too blind to see the general in the making. You were kind, but you were never clueless. You were loving, but you were never lost. You were hidden behind purity, but you were always packing power. And now they're seeing the commander, and they're stunned. Number 3, negotiator of chaos, master of silence. While they were throwing tantrums for attention, you were moving mountains in silence. See, chosen one, they mistook your calm for cowardice. They thought because you didn't lash out, you had nothing to say. Because you didn't raise your voice, you had no power. But silence was never your surrender. It was your strategy. And now that the results are too loud to ignore, they're choking on the realization. While they were busy shouting to be heard, you were mastering the entire battlefield in whispers. You never played the fool's game. You didn't waste time trying to prove your worth to people who couldn't see past their own ego. While they were obsessed with being right, you were aligning with what's real. You weren't interested in winning arguments. You were busy winning in life. You let them speak louder, act reckless, reveal themselves. And then you made your move, one so precise, so divine, it left them speechless. Because that's what the chosen do. We don't fight like the rest. We don't swing wildly. We calculate. You didn't fight the chaos head on. You negotiated with it. You became the calm inside the storm. The eye of the hurricane. While others drowned in emotion and ego, you stood centered, still and surgical. And that's terrifying to them, a soul that doesn't break under pressure, but sharpens. And maybe right now you're wondering, why do people always try to drag me into drama? Because your peace exposes their noise. Your silence threatens their illusions. You don't feed their chaos, and that starves their control. That's why they hate you, mock you, try to poke at you. They want your reaction because your stillness reveals their weakness. But the universe? It sees everything. It saw the moments you bit your tongue instead of clapping back. It saw when you chose growth over revenge, when you let your actions speak instead of your ego. And now it's rewarding you publicly for what you handled privately. That's why doors are opening, energy is shifting, and people are stunned by your rise. They have no idea how much you've endured in silence. Let them talk, let them shout, let them spin in their chaos. Your silence isn't absence, it's presence refined. You're not just avoiding noise, you transcended it. And now they can't figure out how the quiet one became the most powerful one in the room. You don't argue, you negotiate reality, and reality just bent in your favor. Number 4. They mistook your stillness for surrender. They thought you were done, but statues don't shake the earth. Giants do. They watched you sit still and assumed you had quit. They saw your pause and mistook it for paralysis. That's how shallow their perception was. They believed your silence meant surrender, when in truth, it was your alignment. You weren't stuck. You were syncing with something much bigger than them. You weren't frozen. You were focused. You were tuned in to a frequency they've never even heard of. And now that you've finally made your move, they're standing in the debris of their own misjudgment. You see, chosen one, stillness is a language only the spiritually mature understand. It's not laziness, it's intelligence. While they were sprinting in circles, chasing noise and calling it progress, you were rooted in patience. You weren't moving because the universe hadn't given you the signal yet. And when that signal came, you didn't step, you stormed. And that's why they're shaken now. You went from zero to seismic without warning. That's the power of divine timing. Stillness is where kings are crowned in private. It's where empires are built in silence. Do you think the lion feels insecure while waiting in the grass? No, the lion waits because it knows it's the predator. Because it knows when it moves, it wins. And that was you. You were listening to your intuition, learning the terrain, studying the energy. And when you finally acted, you weren't guessing, you were guided. And let's answer the question you might be silently asking right now. Was I wrong for waiting? No, you were wise. You let the storm pass. You let the fakes expose themselves. You didn't react. You watched. And that's what terrifies them now. They don't know how long you were preparing, how deep you were building, or how far your vision goes. But they feel it now. In every word you say, every boundary you enforce, every room you walk into with authority they never saw coming. You didn't surrender. You synchronized with the universe, with your higher self, with truth. And now everything is moving with you because you finally moved with it. You're no longer still, you're surging. And the ground they mocked you on? It's shaking under them now. Number 5. You were fighting shadows while they laughed. They laughed while you bled in silence. Now they flinch at the light you forged in the dark. They had the audacity to mock your distance, to gossip about your silence, to call you cold when you were just clinging to your soul. You weren't distant. You were at war. You were battling forces they'll never understand. And the craziest part, you kept showing up. You kept smiling. You kept functioning while your inner world was collapsing and rebuilding in secret. That's not weakness. That's otherworldly strength. That's the kind of power that makes the enemy nervous without even knowing why. See, they only measure what they can see, but chosen ones. We carry pain that isn't always visible. We heal wounds that didn't come from knives. They came from betrayal, from energy, from loss, from spiritual attacks meant to break us. While they were out chasing validation, you were learning how to protect your mind in a war zone of doubt. While they were laughing at your weird vibes, you were decoding visions, surviving isolation, learning how to listen to your soul over the noise of the world. That's sacred training, and now they're standing in front of a warrior they never saw being built. Here's what they'll never admit. They couldn't have survived what you did, not even for a day. You endured attacks that would have crushed them. You carried silence like armor. You fought off breakdowns with prayer, tears, and brutal self-discipline. You were deep in the trenches, healing, purging, decoding trauma, while they pointed fingers and ran their mouths. That's why your presence shakes them now. They know something's different, even if they can't name it. That's called earned energy. And maybe you've asked yourself, why didn't anyone see what I was going through? Because chosen ones fight invisible wars. The universe gave you that battle, not them. Because you could survive it. Because you would grow through it. Because you would come out on the other side with wisdom, not bitterness. And that's exactly what happened. You didn't just survive the darkness, you became the light inside it. So let them stay confused. Let them ask questions like, why are they so different now? The answer is simple. You walked through hell with your eyes open and came out shining. They only laughed because they didn't feel what was chasing you. But now they feel what's changed in you. And that shift, that's terrifying. Because it means you made it through, and they never thought you would. Number 6, you went missing in the crowd until you emerged like a legend. They overlooked you because you blended in. Now they stare because you stand above everything they thought you were. You went missing on purpose, not because you had nothing to offer, but because you knew the crowd couldn't handle what you were becoming. You didn't need to be seen, you needed to be ready, so you disappeared. You went ghost. You pulled back, you cut off the noise, and you gave the world your silence while you built your soul in private. And now you've re-emerged like a myth they thought would never exist. Real, undeniable, legendary. You see, chosen one, legends don't beg for attention. They walk through fire, become the flame, and return with eyes that say, I've seen things you'll never understand. You didn't fall off, you fell inward. While everyone else was rushing to be seen, you were getting dangerous in the dark. And that's what has them shaken now. They don't recognize you, not because you changed, but because you activated. They're asking themselves, where did this version of you come from? And the answer is, the wilderness. That lonely place where the real ones go when the world tries to tame their power. You went into hiding to become what couldn't be ignored. You weren't lost, you were becoming precise. You weren't invisible, you were invincible in the making. You didn't blend in because you were weak. You blended in like a sniper blends with the shadows. Quiet, focused, lethal. And now that you've stepped back onto the scene, the whole energy shifted. Suddenly, the same people who once looked through you are looking up at you. They're watching how you move, how you speak, how you carry yourself like something untouchable. And they're confused because the person they once dismissed is now the one commanding the room without saying a word. Maybe you've asked yourself, why did I have to go through isolation? Because visibility without identity is a setup. The universe needed you to disappear so you could remember who you are without all the noise. And once you remembered, you didn't just come back, you returned like prophecy. You don't even fit into their memory anymore. You're a walking contradiction to everything they thought you were. So let them stare, let them whisper, let them obsess. You went from ghost to guide, from invisible to icon. You vanished as a question and came back as the answer. Number 7. They expected you to break. You became unbreakable. They watched you walk through fire and swore you'd burn, but now you glow with a heat they can't touch. They expected you to fold, to break, to collapse under pressure like they would have. That's the twisted part, chosen one. They didn't just expect it, they needed it. Your fall would have validated their mediocrity, but instead of shattering, you evolved. Instead of breaking, you became bulletproof. They threw pain at you, hoping it would kill you. Instead, you alchemized it into power. That's not survival, that's transformation. That's spiritual warfare turned into sacred mastery. You didn't just go through pain, you used it. Like a blacksmith uses fire, like nature uses pressure to make diamonds. The universe wasn't punishing you, it was training you. Every betrayal, every disappointment, every sleepless night. It was melting the old version of you down and reforging you into something their energy could never break again. You've got scars that whisper lessons now, eyes that don't flinch, a heart that won't collapse just because the world gets cold. And the people who once saw you as fragile, they're confused now, confused by your stillness, confused by how nothing seems to shake you anymore. You used to cry over things that now barely scratch your spirit. You used to give your energy to people who couldn't hold space for it. Now you walk like you've got armor stitched into your skin, because you do. Every wound taught you how to feel, but not fall. Every rejection redirected you toward your purpose. Maybe you're wondering, why did I have to go through so much? Because your destiny was never meant to be average. You weren't built for comfort, you were built for legacy. The universe saw your soul and knew you could take the heat, turn it into fuel, and then come back stronger than everything that tried to break you. That's why you were hit so hard. That's why you were isolated, because strength like yours isn't created in crowds. It's carved in crisis. They can't hurt you like before. They can't pull the same strings. They can't manipulate what you've already mastered. You're not cold, you're centered. You're not numb, you're aware. You're not heartless. You just won't bleed for unworthy hands anymore. Let them stare at the new you in confusion. Let them whisper about how you changed. That's not change, chosen one. That's evolution. That's what it looks like when pain becomes purpose and weakness becomes weaponry. You didn't break, you ascended, and now you're untouchable. Number 8. Your mind is a weapon. They never factored in. They thought you were quiet because you had nothing to say. Turns out you were just 10 moves ahead. They overlooked your mind because you didn't flaunt it. You weren't out here barking orders or bragging about how aware you are. You observed, you listened, you calculated, and that was their biggest mistake, thinking that silence equals stupidity. But while they were performing, you were planning. While they were reacting, you were decoding. You weren't just surviving chaos, you were mapping it. Chosen one, your mind is not ordinary. It's a spiritual instrument. It doesn't just see what's happening, it senses why. You pick up on energy before words are spoken. You feel motives before actions happen. That's not intuition. That's spiritual radar, and it terrifies them, because while they were trying to play you, you were playing the whole board. You knew who was fake before they showed it. You felt shifts before they became real. You adapted before they even realized a change was needed. And here's what really shakes them. They never saw it coming. You don't look like the threat. You don't come with drama. You don't yell, you don't warn, you don't give previews. You just move smart. You let them talk. You let them show their hand. You let them underestimate you, because the longer they assume you're harmless, the deeper they expose themselves. Then, You flip the script without raising your voice. That's psychological warfare, and you've mastered it with elegance. Maybe you've asked yourself, why do people always get nervous when I start speaking truth? Because truth cuts deeper when it's delivered with calm. Because your presence is unnerving when your awareness is surgical. Your intelligence isn't just knowledge, it's discernment. You don't just know, you feel, you read, you see through. And that scares those who hide behind manipulation and masks, because they know you're not buying the performance anymore. Let them underestimate you. Let them try to run games on you. Just smile. Because you already know their next move. You've outgrown the traps. You've studied the patterns. You've seen this energy before and beat it before. You're not walking blind anymore. You're walking with mental precision. They never factored in your mind, but now it's the most dangerous thing in the room, and they can feel it. Number 9. You didn't just heal, you evolved. They prayed for your healing to look like weakness, so when you came back evolved, it ruined their plan. They were counting on you to come back stitched together, fragile, trying to be okay. They expected a version of you that would tiptoe around your pain, apologize for your glow, and play small to keep the peace. But you didn't heal how they hoped. You didn't just survive the storm, you merged with it. You didn't just recover, you resurrected. And what came out of that darkness wasn't a wounded soul. It was a warrior reborn with new eyes, new energy, and zero tolerance for anything beneath your calling. You didn't heal in their timeline. You didn't follow their formula. You broke apart in silence and rebuilt yourself with brutal truth. No shortcuts, no pretending. You went down into the mud, faced every demon, owned every scar, and came back unrecognizable. You didn't just put the pieces back together, you replaced them. You're not the same soul who got hurt. You're a higher version that was forged through that hurt. And that's what rattles them to the core. See, healing is the word they like to throw around because it sounds manageable. But evolution? That's different. That means you upgraded. That means you outgrew the old dynamic, the old pain, the old system. And when you outgrow something, you don't go back. That's why they can't reach you anymore. That's why their old tricks don't work, because you no longer exist on the same frequency they met you on. Maybe you've wondered, why can't I connect with certain people anymore? Because healing didn't just patch your wounds, it changed your blueprint. You're not compatible with the old chaos. Your soul demands higher ground now. And anyone who stayed stagnant during your growth journey feels it. That tension, that awkward energy, that's not you being distant. That's you evolving beyond their access. Let them miss the old you. That version was surviving. This one is sovereign. You're living proof that darkness isn't where chosen ones die. It's where they ascend. You turn trauma into treasure, pain into prophecy, wounds into weapons. You're not a victim of your past. You're the architect of your future. You didn't heal. You leveled up. And now, every room you walk into feels the shift, because they're looking at someone who didn't just make it out. They mastered the transformation. Number 10. You're not a follower. You're a force. They thought you were another follower in the herd. Turns out you were the storm watching from the mountain, waiting to strike. They boxed you in early, labeled you soft, called you nice as if that meant submissive, mistook your humility for insecurity, and they thought they had you figured out. You didn't speak like them. You didn't chase trends like them. You didn't copy and paste your identity from social media like they did. So, in their shallow eyes, you were just another follower, another sheep, another soul they assumed would need direction. But what they didn't know is that you were the force they couldn't measure. You weren't built to follow. You were programmed by the universe to lead, and more importantly, to disrupt. You're not here to blend in. You're here to break patterns. You're not quiet because you're unsure. You're quiet because you're conscious. You don't speak unless it matters. You don't move unless it's aligned. You don't chase trends. You bend timelines. And that unsettles people whose power only exists in groups. You're not part of the herd because you see where the herd is going, and you know it's straight off a cliff. That's the difference. That's the awareness you carry. That's the blueprint they missed. While others needed noise to feel relevant, you crafted peace into your weapon. While others screamed to be heard, you studied what wasn't being said. You are not just a presence. You are pressure that doesn't have to announce itself. And maybe you've wondered, why do people always try to label me, limit me, or tame me? Because your refusal to conform is offensive to those who gave up their own power just to be accepted. Your autonomy reminds them of what they lost. Your sovereignty triggers their submission. You are free in a way most people will never be, and instead of learning from you, they judge you. Because that's easier than admitting they followed the crowd and still ended up unfulfilled. Let them call you arrogant. Let them roll their eyes. Let them whisper about how different you are now. Because that difference, it's leadership. It's the energy of someone who doesn't need a crowd to validate their steps. It's the signature of someone handpicked by the universe to go first, to go against the current and show others that obedience isn't the same as loyalty, and silence isn't the same as submission. You're not anti-social, you're anti-propaganda. You don't belong in echo chambers. You belong on mountaintops, and that's exactly where you're headed, because you stopped waiting for permission, and now you're being watched by the very people who swore you were irrelevant. So no, you're not a follower, you're not a sheep, you're not a background character in their mediocre script. You're the force that breaks the cycle. You're the voice that rewrites the narrative. You're the proof that authenticity is not only dangerous, it's unstoppable. Number 11. Your presence creates emotional earthquakes. You used to walk in unnoticed. Now, your silence makes the room hold its breath. They didn't see you before because you weren't fully here. You were shrinking to fit. You were dulling your shine to survive the noise. You were quiet, not out of fear, but because the world wasn't ready for the real you. But something changed. You stopped diluting your presence. You stopped explaining your energy. You stopped editing your essence for people who couldn't even handle their own reflection. And now when you walk into a room, the atmosphere adjusts. Chosen one, your presence doesn't just arrive, it shifts reality. People feel you before you speak. Their nervous systems pick up on it, even if their ego tries to deny it. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. You've become someone who carries weight in silence. It's not what you say, it's how your spirit pressurizes the air. That's what makes people stare longer than they mean to. That's what makes old friends stutter when they try to reconnect. That's what has former enemies double-checking how they ever disrespected you. Your emotional presence hits different because it's earned. You didn't just wake up like this. You survived into this. You fought, broke, healed, and rebuilt your inner world brick by brick. And now that your energy is clear, grounded, and spiritually aligned, you don't just take up space, you command it. You're not loud, but you are felt. You're not everywhere, but your energy lingers. That's presence, that's power, that's what chosen ones carry when they finally remember who they are. And let's answer the question that might have haunted you during your quiet years. Why did I feel so invisible for so long? Because you hadn't yet stepped into your full vibration. You were still shedding false layers, still healing generational wounds, still learning how to take off masks you didn't even realize you were wearing. But once you chose to get real, not just on the outside, but on the soul level, your frequency became impossible to ignore. Let them be caught off guard. Let them try to make sense of the shift. It's not your job to explain the divine. It's only your job to embody it. And that's exactly what you're doing now. You don't chase attention. It locks onto you. You don't force connection. You attract what resonates with your truth. You're not invisible anymore because you're finally authentic. And authenticity is the most magnetic force in existence. So don't dim it. Don't hide it. Don't apologize for it. Your presence was meant to cause earthquakes. You were never supposed to enter quietly. You were born to redefine the entire frequency of the room. Number 12. Be proud. You are what they said you'd never be. They called you crazy, delusional, weak. Now they call you inspiring because they're too ashamed to say wrong. You were never meant to make it, not in their eyes. You were the underdog, the one they gossiped about, the one they laughed at behind closed doors. They thought you'd break. They wanted you to break. Every time you failed, they whispered, "I knew it." Every time you doubted yourself, they celebrated silently, but you didn't stay down. You didn't become their prophecy. You became your own legend. You didn't just survive their betrayal. You transcended it. And now, you are everything they swore you'd never be. That's what terrifies them, not just your glow-up, not just your success, but the fact that they had front-row seats to your becoming and still never saw it coming. You did the one thing they never prepared for. You loved yourself when no one clapped. You poured into your own soul when the world turned its back. You believed in your light when even your reflection looked dim. That's what separates you from them. You became without applause. And chosen one, let's keep it real. Some of the very people who doubted you are now trying to claim they always believed in you. That's what shame does. It makes liars out of those who didn't have the vision to see past your process. But let them pretend, let them rewrite history. Because deep down, they know they underestimated someone who is now untouchable. They know they mocked a masterpiece mid-painting. Maybe you've wondered, why does it feel awkward when people try to praise me now? Because they're not clapping out of pride, they're clapping out of panic. They know you proved them wrong. They know they couldn't have endured what you did. They know your journey exposed their small thinking. So they say they're proud, but what they mean is, I didn't believe in you, and now I can't sleep at night knowing you did it without me. So be proud, not just of what you've accomplished, but of who you've become. Be proud that you healed when bitterness would have been easier. Be proud that you elevated without revenge. Be proud that you are living proof that the universe backs those who stay true to their soul. You didn't become what they expected. You became what they feared, independent, unstoppable, fully awakened. You're no longer the one they left behind. You're the one they can't stop watching. Be proud, chosen one. You are the miracle they never believed in, and now you're undeniable.